The execution and Earth's isolation. The holographic displays in Earth's United Space Command headquarters flickered with static before displaying the feed from the Galactic Conclave's central chamber. Dr. Marcus Chen watched with the rest of Earth's leadership as the 7-member High Council delivered their verdict. The massive chamber, filled with representatives from over 300 species, fell silent. Commander Elena Rise of Earth has been found guilty of espionage against the Galactic Conclave and sabotage resulting in the deaths of 17 Tellurian diplomats, announced High Counselor Zyvex, a tall, willowy being with shimmering blue skin. The sentence is execution, to be carried out immediately. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Elena had been Earth's first ambassador to the stars, appointed after humanity had finally been granted provisional membership in the Conclave just 2 years ago. Her mission was supposed to be purely diplomatic, to represent Earth's interests and foster positive relations after centuries of humanity wondering if they were alone in the universe. This is absurd. Admiral Harrigan slammed his fist on the conference table. Commander Reyes wouldn't harm anyone. This is a frame job. On screen, Elena stood tall despite being restrained by 2 hulking Draxian guards. Her voice came through clearly. I maintain my innocence. Earth came to the Conclave seeking friendship and knowledge. I implore you to reconsider. High Counselor Zyvex raised a 6-fingered hand, cutting her off. The evidence is conclusive. Your DNA was found at the site of the explosion. Your access codes were used to breach security protocols. Someone is using me, Elena insisted. Earth is being set up. Please, allow me to present. The Conclave has spoken. Zyvex interrupted again. The sentence will be carried out. The feed suddenly cut to a different angle as the Draxian guards began marching Elena toward a small chamber adjacent to the main hall. Earth's leadership watched in horror, powerless to intervene from 12 light-years away. Elena's final words reached them through the static. Tell Earth not to respond with violence. Something is wrong here. Find the truth. A flash of white light, and the feed went dead. The room erupted in shouts and chaos. President Santiago raised her hands for silence. We've just witnessed a grave injustice. Commander Rise was executed without due process. It's worse than that, Admiral Harrigan growled. This was a deliberate message to Earth. They're telling us we're not welcome. As if confirming his words, a new transmission appeared on screen. High Counselor Zyvex's face filled the display, expression unreadable. People of Earth, the Galactic Conclave has determined that humanity is not yet ready for membership among the stars. All communication channels will be closed. Any attempt to enter Conclave space will be considered an act of aggression and met with appropriate force. This decision is final. The transmission ended, leaving only static. Within hours, all communication with Conclave outposts went dark. The monitoring station on Europa reported that the Conclave's diplomatic ship had departed the solar system at FTL speeds. Earth was alone again, but this time with the knowledge that the galaxy was a hostile place. 6 months passed. Earth transformed under the shadow of potential alien aggression. Military spending tripled. The Planetary Defense Initiative, once a small theoretical department, now commanded 20% of the global budget. Children practiced alien invasion drills alongside traditional emergency preparations. Dr. Marcus Chen stared at the complex equations on his holographic display. As Earth's leading xenolinguist and former colleague of Commander Reyes, he had been reassigned to the PDI's Communication Division, tasked with developing better translation systems for potential alien encounters. Working late again, Dr. Chen. Marcus looked up to see Director Keller, the stern-faced leader of the PDI, standing in his doorway. Just trying to make sense of some anomalies in the Conclave's final transmissions, Marcus replied, rubbing his tired eyes. Find anything useful? Maybe. There are some embedded frequencies that don't match standard Conclave communication protocols, almost like there was a second message hidden beneath the official one. Keller frowned. A warning from Commander Reyes. Possibly, or from someone else within the Conclave. I need more time to analyze it. Time might be something we don't have, Doctor. Keller handed him a tablet. The Deep Space Array picked this up 2 hours ago. Marcus examined the readings and felt his pulse quicken. A ship, heading toward Earth. Moving at incredible speed. Nothing in our records matches its signature. It's not conclave design. First contact with a new species. Now. Or the conclave coming back to finish what they started, Keller said grimly. I need you in the command center. If they try to communicate, you're our best shot at understanding them. In the PDI's underground command center, tension thickened the air. The massive central screen tracked the approaching vessel as it decelerated upon reaching the outer solar system. Time to Neptune orbit, Keller asked. 4 hours at current speed. A technician replied. Marcus studied the ship's unusual configuration. That design. It doesn't match anything in the conclave database they shared with us. Admiral Harrigan joined them, his face grim. All defense platforms are on high alert. If they make any aggressive move. Sir, a communications officer interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from the vessel. Put it through, Keller ordered. The screen flickered, and a face appeared that made everyone in the room gasp. The being had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on a face covered with iridescent scales that shifted color like oil on water. 2 slitted nostrils flared above a lipless mouth. Marcus immediately recognized the species from the conclave's xenobiological database. That's a Vormeri, he whispered. They're one of the oldest spacefaring races. The conclave records indicated they were extinct. The Vormeri spoke, its voice deep and resonant. People of Earth, I am Supreme Commander Vaxar of the Vormeri Dominion. We have come concerning the unjust execution of your envoy, Elena Reyes. Stunned silence filled the command center. We have monitored your species since you achieved spaceflight. Vaxar continued. We know the conclave's judgment was false. Commander Reyes was innocent. Keller found his voice first. How can you be certain of that? Because we know who truly destroyed the Tellurian diplomatic vessel. The same faction that has systematically eliminated or isolated promising new species for centuries. The Vormeri's scales rippled with what might have been anger. We request a representative to board our vessel for discussion. The galaxy stands at a precipice, and Earth's role is more significant than you realize. After the transmission ended, the command center erupted in debate. It could be a trap, Admiral Harrigan warned. Or our only chance to learn the truth about Elena's execution, Marcus countered. Why would they care about one human diplomat? Someone asked. Marcus turned back to his workstation and pulled up the anomalous frequencies he'd been studying. With trembling fingers, he applied a new decryption algorithm, one based on ancient Vormeri mathematical principles mentioned in the conclave database. The hidden message resolved on his screen, and Marcus felt his breath catch. It was from Elena, sent in her final moments. Vio Ormera still exist. Conclave core repeated. Find DGAXXAR. Marcus turned to Keller. I need to be on that shuttle. As the small Earth shuttle approached the massive Vormeri vessel, easily 5 times larger than anything humanity had built, Marcus fought to control his racing heart. The Vormeri ship was an elegant construction of sweeping curves and pulsing energy fields, beautiful despite its clearly military design. Approaching docking bay, the pilot announced. They're guiding us in with some kind of tractor beam. Through the viewport, Marcus watched as they were drawn into a cavernous hangar. Dozens of smaller craft were arranged in perfect formation, their designs unlike anything in conclave records. Remember your instructions, Dr. Chen, the pilot said as they touched down. Learn what you can, but commit to nothing. The entire Earth hangs in the balance. Marcus nodded, checking his specialized translation device. I understand. The airlock cycled, and Marcus stepped onto the deck of the alien vessel. 3 Vormeri stood waiting, tall, imposing figures in what appeared to be ceremonial armor. Their scales shifted in patterns of blue and green. Welcome, Dr. Marcus Chen, the central figure, said, its voice surprisingly melodic up close. I am Supreme Commander Vaxar. You show great courage coming alone. Thank you for receiving me, Marcus replied carefully. Earth is curious about your interest in Commander Reyes. Follow me, Vaxar said. There is much to explain, and the danger grows with each passing moment. As they walked through the ship's corridors, Marcus noticed how the walls seemed alive with flowing patterns of light. Other Vormeri they passed bowed slightly to Vaxar, but regarded Marcus with unreadable expressions. They entered a chamber dominated by a large circular table. Above it floated a holographic display of the galaxy, with certain regions highlighted in red. For millennia, the Vormeri were among the founding members of what is now the Galactic Conclave. Vaxar began. We helped establish it as a place of peace and cooperation between species. The Conclave records say the Vormeri died out 3 centuries ago, Marcus noted. A convenient fiction, Vaxar replied, scales shifting to a darker hue. We discovered corruption within the High Council, a faction that believed only certain species deserved the stars. They engineered conflicts, manipulated economies, and when necessary, eliminated entire civilizations they deemed unworthy or threatening. Rather than face civil war within the Conclave, we chose to disappear, to watch and gather evidence from the shadows. Vaxar manipulated the hologram, zooming in on Earth. Your Commander Reyes discovered this conspiracy accidentally when she accessed restricted archives during her diplomatic mission. Elena was a historian before she was a diplomat, Marcus said softly. She always wanted to understand the past to help shape a better future. Her execution was not just about silencing her, Vaxar continued. It was a message to Earth and a dozen other emerging species. Stay in your place or be destroyed. The hologram shifted again, showing the destruction of a beautiful ringed planet. The Ceteri refused to accept isolation after their envoy was similarly framed. The High Council made an example of them. Horror washed over Marcus. An entire civilization. 17 billion souls, Vaxar confirmed. We could no longer remain in hiding after that. We have been contacting the isolated species, building a coalition to expose the corruption and reclaim the Conclave's original purpose. Why would Earth matter in this? Marcus asked. We're centuries behind most species technologically. Vaxar's 4 eyes focused intently on Marcus. Because of what Commander Reyes discovered in those archives. Something even we did not know. The Vormeri touched a control, and a new image appeared in the hologram. Marcus stared at what appeared to be an ancient DNA sequence. What am I looking at? The original template, Vaxar said. Humans are not just another species, Dr. Chen. You are the descendants of the first ones, the species that seeded much of the galaxy with life billions of years ago. The revelation hit Marcus like a physical blow. That's impossible. The corrupt faction within the Conclave has known this for centuries. They fear what humanity might become if allowed to reclaim its heritage. Vaxar's scales rippled with intensity. Your Commander Reyes died trying to bring this truth to Earth. Will you help us finish what she started? Marcus stared at the hologram, mind reeling with implications. What exactly are you proposing? An alliance, Vaxar replied. To save not just Earth, but the original vision of the Conclave itself. The alliance and retribution. The Vormeri ship Inexorable sliced through hyperspace, carrying Dr. Marcus Chen and a small delegation from Earth toward the edges of Conclave territory. 2 months had passed since their initial meeting, months filled with frantic preparations and painful revelations. Marcus stood on the observation deck, watching the hyperspatial distortions flow past like luminescent rivers. The display was both beautiful and terrifying, much like the truth he'd been forced to accept. Still having trouble sleeping, Doctor? Marcus turned to see Ambassador Lyanna Okafor, Earth's newly appointed diplomatic representative, approaching. She had been a controversial choice, a historian like Elena, not a military strategist as many had wanted. Every time I close my eyes, I see those ancient DNA sequences, Marcus admitted. The implications are staggering. That we're descendants of the beings who spread life throughout the galaxy. Lyanna shrugged. It sounds like the plot of a science fiction story, and yet the evidence is compelling. The Vormeri have been remarkably transparent with their data. Perhaps too transparent, Lyanna said cautiously. Some of the military contingent still believe this could be an elaborate deception. To what end? If the Vormeri wanted to destroy Earth, they could have done so without this charade. Their conversation was interrupted by the ship's announcement system. Attention all personnel. Emergence from hyperspace in 5 minutes. All delegates report to the command center. Supreme Commander Vaxar's scales shimmered with anticipation as the humans entered the command center. Around them, Vormeri crew members operated control stations with practiced efficiency. We are approaching the Taurillian Nebula, Vaxar announced. Within it lies our greatest hope and the Conclave's most dangerous secret. The main view screen showed a magnificent purple and teal cosmic cloud stretching across the stars. What exactly are we looking for? Admiral Harrigan asked. Earth had insisted on sending a small military contingent alongside the diplomatic team. The Ark ship, Vaxar replied. A vessel constructed by your ancestors before their civilization collapsed. Within it lies technology and knowledge that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. The ship emerged from hyperspace with a flash of light. Before them spread the nebula, its gases swirling in hypnotic patterns. Sensors detect 3 Conclave patrol vessels within the nebula, a Vormeri officer reported. They appear to be searching. They must have decoded parts of the archives Commander Reyes accessed, Vaxar said grimly. We're not the only ones seeking the Ark ship. Marcus studied the tactical display. How do we proceed? Carefully, Vaxar replied. The nebula's radiation will provide some cover, but we must move quickly. As the inexorable glided into the colorful gases, visibility dropped dramatically. The ship's external sensors switched to alternative spectrums, rendering the view in false colors. There, Vaxar pointed to a faint outline on the screen. The Ark ship. Marcus felt his breath catch. Even half buried in nebula gases, the structure was clearly artificial. An enormous crescent shape at least 20 kilometers from tip to tip. It's massive, Lyanna whispered. Conclave vessels are changing course, the tactical officer announced urgently. They've detected us. Vaxar's scales darkened. Prepare for combat. Get our boarding team ready. You can't be serious, Admiral Harrigan protested. That thing has been drifting for millions of years. What could possibly still be useful? The Ark ship was designed to last an eternity, Vaxar replied. And according to our intelligence, it contains something the Conclave fears above all else, the truth about why the first ones disappeared, and what they left behind for their children to find. Marcus had never imagined he would set foot on a vessel built by humanity's ancient forebears. The boarding shuttle docked with the massive Ark ship as the Inexorable engaged the Conclave patrol ships in a diversionary battle. The boarding team consisted of Marcus, Lyanna, 2 Earth security officers, and 5 Vormeri specialists. They breached the outer hull through what appeared to be an emergency access point. Atmosphere is thin but breathable, reported one of the Vormeri, checking instruments. Low levels of radiation. The ship's preservation systems are still partially functional. Marcus switched on his helmet light and gasped at what it revealed. The corridor stretched before them, its walls covered in intricate symbols that seemed hauntingly familiar. Some of these patterns, he said, tracing a finger over one symbol. They resemble Proto-Indo-European pictographs. The oldest human writing systems were degraded memories of these, Vaxar explained. Your ancestors carried the knowledge in their genes, fragments emerging as you developed civilization anew. They moved deeper into the ship, passing through chambers filled with dormant technology. In one vast room, they found rows of cylindrical pods stretching into the darkness. Stasis chambers, Vaxar said quietly. Empty now. Where were they going? Lyanna wondered aloud. Why build such a massive vessel? Not going, Vaxar corrected. Running. According to the fragments we've pieced together, your ancestors were fleeing something. A distant explosion rocked the ship. The Conclave forces have boarded, one of the Vormeri reported. We must hurry. They quickened their pace, following Vaxar's directions through the labyrinthine structure. Finally, they reached what appeared to be a central command hub, a circular chamber with a raised platform in the center. This is it, Vaxar said, scales bright with excitement. The Ark ship's memory core. The complete history of the first ones, and the truth about the Conclave's origins. Marcus approached the central platform cautiously. It illuminated at his touch, responding to his human DNA. Holographic displays sprang to life around them, showing star maps and data streams in the ancient language. It recognizes you, Vaxar said with satisfaction. Another explosion, closer this time. They're approaching our position, a security officer warned. Marcus worked frantically, guided by an intuition he couldn't explain. His fingers moved across the ancient controls as if he used them before. I found something, he announced. A message, left for whoever came next. The holographic display shifted, coalescing into the figure of a humanoid being, clearly similar to modern humans, but with subtle differences in proportion and features. If you are witnessing this recording, the figure spoke in a language that Marcus somehow understood. Then some part of our legacy has survived. We, the progenitors, created the Conclave to nurture new life across the galaxy. But we discovered too late that our creation had been corrupted. A faction arose, believing themselves superior to all others, seeking to control the evolution of sentient life rather than letting it flourish freely. The figure continued. We could not defeat them directly without destroying everything we had built. Instead, we scattered our children, modified versions of ourselves, across thousands of worlds, hiding our true legacy within their very cells. Earth was the most precious of these worlds, the final repository of our uncorrupted knowledge. The door to the chamber burst open, revealing a squad of Conclave soldiers led by a familiar figure, High Counselor Zyvex. Step away from the console, Zyvex commanded. This knowledge is forbidden. By whose authority? Lyanna demanded, stepping forward despite the weapons trained on her. The corrupt faction that's been manipulating the Conclave for millennia. Zyvex's expression hardened. You cannot comprehend the responsibility we bear. Some species are not ready for the power the progenitors left behind. We have guided civilization along safe paths. Safe for whom? Marcus challenged, still working the console behind his back. You've committed genocide against species that didn't conform to your vision. Necessary sacrifices for galactic stability, Zyvex insisted. Humans are particularly dangerous. Your adaptability and aggression make you unpredictable. That's not your decision to make, Marcus said. With a final command, he activated the Ark ship's transmission system. The holographic message from the progenitor began broadcasting, not just within the ship, but to every Conclave communication channel across the galaxy. The truth that had been hidden for millions of years was finally revealed. Zyvex lunged forward, but Vaxar intercepted him. The two ancient enemies locked in combat as chaos erupted throughout the chamber. 3 months later, Marcus stood before the newly formed Galactic Assembly, the reorganized governing body that had replaced the corrupted Conclave. Representatives from hundreds of species, including many that had been previously isolated or persecuted, filled the enormous chamber. The discovery of the Ark ship has fundamentally changed our understanding of galactic history, Marcus concluded his address. But more importantly, it has given us a chance to rebuild the alliance of species as it was originally intended, based on cooperation and mutual respect rather than control and fear. He glanced to where Supreme Commander Vaxar sat with the Vormeri delegation. The alliance between humans and Vormeri had held firm through the chaotic transition. With the corrupt faction exposed and removed from power, the remaining Conclave species had largely embraced reform. In honor of Commander Elena Reyes, whose sacrifice ultimately led to this moment, Earth proposes the establishment of the Race Protocol, guaranteeing the right of all sentient species to self-determination and protection from interference in their natural development. The motion passed with overwhelming support. As the assembly concluded, Marcus found himself standing beside a memorial to those who had died bringing the truth to light, Elena's name prominent among them. Lyanna joined him, now officially confirmed as Earth's permanent ambassador. Elena would be proud, she said quietly. Her death wasn't in vain. No, Marcus agreed, but this is just the beginning. The progenitors left us more than just a history lesson. They left us a warning. About what? Marcus gazed out at the stars visible through the assembly's transparent dome. Something drove them to scatter their children across the galaxy and hide their true nature. Something they feared enough to abandon their civilization at its height. You think it's still out there? Lyanna asked. I don't know, Marcus admitted. But whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Humans, Vormeri, and all the other species. Not as subjects of the Conclave, but as equals in the assembly. As if in response, a new star seemed to flare briefly in the distance before fading back to normal, perhaps just an astronomical anomaly, or perhaps something watching, waiting for the galaxy's civilizations to mature enough for the next chapter in their shared history.